You're listening to The Coaching Divas, a podcast for everyone navigating the twists and turns of corporate life.
Follow along as we chat through common workplace situations and extend the coach approach to help you handle them with ease.
We offer a cross-sectional view that spans generations, positions, workplaces, and lifestyles.
We're your hosts,
Claudia Jones,
Daniela Velkovic,
and Misha Jethba, and we are
The Coaching Divas.
Welcome back to The Coaching Divas. Today, we're tackling a topic that, let's be real, no one wants to experience, but many of us do at some point. Layoffs. Whether you're the one getting the bad news or the one left behind wondering, what just happened? It's a tough ride. But here's the good news. You don't have to go through it alone. We're diving into what happens after the layoff, how to process it, pick yourself back up, and yes, even find some silver linings. And for those who stay, we've got tips for navigating the uncertainty, the guilt, and the shifting workplace dynamics. So grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and let's talk about how to move forward. Because whether you're going, staying, or just trying to figure it all out, you've got this. Let's get into it.
It's a great introduction, Misha. Thank you so much for that. Being laid off is not fun. Not fun at all. And I can certainly attest to that. I've had the fortunate or unfortunate event of being laid off twice. And yeah, it's really devastating to the ego, that's for sure. But the one thing that I always kept in mind and the one thing to always remember is that it wasn't a choice that was made personally because of you and yourself. It's usually an organization or a company decision that was made, and it usually has to do with cutting costs. And you really don't have much influence on those things unless you are, of course, the decision maker. Daniela, what have you seen?
So I will fully declare I haven't been laid off, but I also have been a part of the process to make the choices. Years ago, I was a compensation consultant, and part of our role was to make recommendations to HR. And I will say, having looked at that lens, unfortunately, we become numbers on a page. And a lot of the time, what's driving these choices is, as simple as there's a cheaper role out there if I pay someone who is different. Could be younger, could be less experienced, but do we really need the super experienced individual to do this work? It could be a decision that's made across the board just to change the salary bands. If you think about it, we're all paid within salary bands and we're going to change how we structure them. And if you're no longer in that salary band and you're above it or below it, but you're not on the next level, it is as simple as math. We're going to cut X, Y, Z. Could be location strategy changes, right? We're relocating a bunch of roles to a new region. Could be within your country, could be within the continent, could be a whole other continent. But at the end of the day, it's a business decision, and it sucks because there's people that get left behind and that get people that feel excluded. So that's really hard to deal with, I think.
It is. And I think, sorry, you just kind of touched on something for me too, is that the decision makers honestly believe that people are interchangeable. And I think that's the part where it really impacts your ego, thinking that, they believe that if they outsource my job to another country, that individual can just pick up where I left off. And it starts to kind of play with your mind. I don't know if it's playing with your mind, but it certainly impacts your confidence to think, I've been doing this for 5 years. And they believe, someone who's never worked for this organization can just pick up where I left off. So what does that say about what I've contributed to the organization? What does that say about what I've learned along the way and how valuable was my contribution to my workplace? And that's really where it kind of can impact your confidence a little bit, and maybe can impact how you feel about looking for that next job going forward. Because to think that we're just interchangeable, pluck us out of one round hole and put another round peg in the same hole, and we know that's not the case, but that certainly is the message that's being sent. Frustrating. It's very frustrating.
I have never been laid off. I have been a decision maker. I've been a manager who's had to nominate people. I get pulled in by my executive to say, this is happening. I need names. And it's hard as a manager to make the decision. You feel guilty. It's a similar feeling to if you're going to fire someone, even if it's based on performance and all that kind of stuff, you realize I'm taking away someone's income, their job, their sustainability, like I'm taking that away. And so there's definitely guilt. at some level within the organization in terms of decision makers. I think at some higher altitudes, maybe not. Maybe that is where it's a little bit more transactional. But I mean, I can tell you personally, I bawled my eyes out that night. And it's not easy to be the decision maker either. When you're the one left behind, when you're the person or the group that gets to stay, it's not business as usual. The whole event of a layoff taints your view of security. It taints your view of how recognized you are, how appreciated you are as an employee. And the doubt starts to creep in. You start to wonder, okay, when does my name get added to the chopping block?
Yeah.
And there's a huge ripple that happens after a layoff if you're the one who's stayed. You question your routine. You question the psychological safety.
The metaphor that comes up for me is who's picking up the pieces?
The people who stay.
And who's picking up the work that needs to continue?
The people who stay.
And you as the decision, well, if you had to be a manager and make those decisions, you now have to convince the people who stay behind that your workload has now increased, right? You now have, everyone's working at 110%. You're now working at 120%. And I'm here to support you, right?
Yeah. I was very lucky.
Oh, good luck. Lucky you.
That's good.
Yeah. It's not... You wouldn't think a manager who's had to make those decisions would say they were lucky, but I was lucky in the sense that the individuals that were impacted, I didn't even get to deliver the message to them. They got pulled into like a big company meeting. But that same day, by 4:00, I got messages from them, text messages, thanking me, telling me, thanks, Misha, for, always believing in me, supporting me. I don't take it personally. I respect your decision, essentially,
Wow.
is what they had said to me. So that's why I say I'm lucky, because I don't think many managers get messages like that after making that type of decision.
Hold on. They communicated that the manager made the decision?
No, but one insinuates, right? That like, okay, well,
Gotcha.
why was my name put up on here? My manager had to have had some kind of sign off. And to my group that stayed, that has to continue under my leadership, had a lot of high trust in me. I gave the visibility I possibly could to them into the decision making, and nothing changed. Nobody started acting differently towards me. And so that's why I say, as a manager who's had to make the decision, I was very lucky.
Yeah, you were, because I'll tell you, I was called the B word by someone I had to lay off. And I'll tell you, I couldn't believe it. So once he demonstrated that hostility, I just called security and had him escorted out because I wasn't going to put up with that.
Yeah.
You are extremely lucky, Misha. You worked with some amazing people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Months later, I had an individual reach out to me and say, thank you. It was the best. Like, you made the decision for me. It was the right time for me. Like, I couldn't make the decision myself. So thanks for making it for me. Who would imagine that's the reception you get?
Yeah, but you've hit the nail on the head. Anyone that I know personally, family, ex-partners that have been laid off, I hate to say this, but they come back and they go, that was a gift I didn't think I needed. I hate to say that, but I don't know. Majority that I know have come back and been very happy about it. Could have also been generational, but that was a reaction that they had after when they look back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it really depends on how the decision is being made. There are organizations that go through layoffs and they say, we have a quota, we have a number, we have to hit it. Give me the names. Give me employee IDs. Don't even give me names.
And there are organizations that don't even give the choice to the manager.
Yeah.
They basically say, job A, moving to location B.
Yeah.
And that's it. And the manager has no choice.
Yeah. Anyone who fits that criteria, on the list. Which is tough, because I think also, like, okay, maybe in my situation, maybe I was so lucky because the individuals were picked by me and there was an understanding of their situations versus just names picked out of a hat, and you feel completely just like, wait, what? but I've been delivering. I got a high performer last year on my performance review. Like, I didn't see this coming, and it's just the rug has been pulled out from underneath you. I mean, the rug gets pulled out from underneath you either way, but perhaps that's where more of the hostility comes in.
And I think too, as the manager, because I've been in all sides of this discussion, is when you do have to select only a few individuals from your department, it's usually done a few days before the activity happens. Hopefully, if the company's thoughtful, you don't do this planning months and months ahead. It's only like maybe a week or so ahead of time. So now you know who's on the list. And as the manager, you have to walk around and look at these people and continue with business as normal, as usual. And as a manager, that's a really tough thing to do. Because they're making plans, they're going on vacations, they're doing this. And all of a sudden you're looking at them going, oh, please, I hope you have a plan B, because we can't follow through on that, As I said, as a manager, it's really difficult to A, to look at the people who are going to be impacted, and B, look at the rest of the team saying, oh, yeah, don't worry, those rumors are all false, because there's always rumors flying around about layoffs coming. I don't know about a lot of people, but I am not a good poker player. You can see everything on my face. So trying to convince people that, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's just rumors. That's just rumors. I don't know. I don't know where these all came from. And then, a week later, you have to do the deed. And as we talked earlier, the night before it happens, I don't sleep at all. I don't sleep at all. So I wake up.
How can you?
So when
How can you if you're a human being?
Oh, I know.
You care.
So when I go to work, I'm just a mess. It's just an awful situation, experience for everybody. Absolutely everybody. But I can tell you too, some of the it's kind of like to Misha's point, some of the beautiful humanity comes out as well. The very first time I had a massive layoff where my whole department was terminated and the jobs all were outsourced to another country, I was impacted as well. So I knew the day before I was being impacted, and then the next day they told the rest of the team. But rather than bring everybody into a room, which I always thought was very cold to do that, I had a stack of envelopes and I called everybody into a meeting room and I just walked everybody through their packages and the situation. It took me probably a good 15 minutes per person. And I was always amazed at the number of people who were concerned about me. So that was a loveliness that I wasn't expecting, to say, oh, and how are you doing? Are you okay? What's your situation in this? Is there anything I could do to help you? And I thought, wow, because especially some of the more mature staff I had, they recognize that this is just as hard on me as it is on them. So some of the real characters, like the cream rises to the top type of analogy is there, because some of the people, they show who they really are. And it's just lovely to see that there are some really decent people out there and some that call me the B word. So there you go. You can't paint everybody with the same brush. You can't please them all.
Yeah, and human reaction is a very powerful thing.
Yeah, it is.
When they're faced with, the reality of, shoot, I just bought a new lease on a car.
Yeah.
And I lost my job.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough that the organizations I worked for, they always exceeded the Employment Act expectations of what kind of severance to give. Right. So it was always a respectable severance that could carry them for several months, as opposed to just the, 1 week a year type of package that's being offered according to the Employment Act. So at least it would help people. And then they always provided, depending on your seniority, of course, they always provided replacement services, right? They would hook you up with some sort of career coach, help you with your resume, get you back on your feet a little bit. Again, depending on your seniority, they had maybe 6 weeks versus 6 months worth of services coming your way. So at least they did try to help you on your next steps, as opposed to just throwing you out on the curb, which to me is that, that's the best we can do right now.
And you touch on a really important thing. Anyone that I know that has been laid off, they've typically had a really robust severance package. And it didn't really matter if they were less than 5 years. They managed to somehow have 6+ months of pay and then all the other supports that exist there. And the reason I use the expression, they always looked at it fondly, was because a lot of them went back to school. A lot of them found other ways of, starting a new business, pursuing their passion. They used those 6 months as a gift, and they never acknowledged it publicly, but I could see that they were much happier that they weren't, going to the job again kind of thing, which is always kind of funny because, hindsight, you're brilliant. But in the moment, you think it's like the worst thing that could ever happen to you. So what do we do when we're actually laid off? What are some things that we could apply or self-manage or, from a coach approach lens, what could help us process what's happened to us?
I would say the first thing is for people to realize they are more than just their job and that there is life outside of insert company name here. Because so many people are just identify so much with the work that they do and they identify so much with the organization that they're with, especially some of the people who've been there for a much longer period of time, that you need to realize you are more than just an analyst, more than just a teacher, or more than just whatever, right? It's the fact that you yourself are more than just your job. It's good to take a look at yourself to see what other great qualities do you have, what skills you have, and connect back to your point, Daniela. What is that opportunity I'm missing out on? What, maybe I've always been interested in X, can I go back to school? Can I take courses? How do I, have that growth mindset and kind of move on from this?
I love the way you frame that up as taking care of yourself. A few colleagues that have gone through some layoffs in the last 8 months, one of the big things is networking. I've seen them be transparent on LinkedIn to say, hey, this happened to me and here's where I'm at. When I'm ready, this is what I'm looking for. And then they do networking. And so I think there's a progression in that experience. When you're ready, tell people and don't hide it. There is no shame in getting laid off. It happens, right?
Right.
People have gone through it. You will find more camaraderie with others. Like, here's a call. 3 of us, one hasn't, one has gone through both sides of the fence, one's done the other side of the fence, but experienced and seen. There are people out there that have gone through this. You're not the only one. You're not alone. You're not on Ban Island. Let people know and have the conversations and be open and tell your neighbors.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is people love to help. And you will find that the person that you least expected would be interested in knowing about it probably has gone through it or can make a connection for you.
I want to say process it, but when I say that, I mean, let yourself feel all the feels. If you've been laid off, it is, to me, emotionally, it's a loss. So you need to go through all the steps of grieving. You need to get angry. You need to be sad. You need to go through all of those steps in a healthy manner. I wouldn't advise calling your manager the B word, but
yeah, he's not getting a recommendation from me.
Yeah. Just allow yourself to process it. Allow yourself to go through the emotions. And similar to what Daniela just said, it's not a weakness. If you've been laid off, it's not your fault. It's not a weakness. It's not like a hush hush, I can't talk about it. It's like a mark on my record. No, it's not. So broadcast, be open about it when you're ready, when you're comfortable, but also process the loss, process the change, because it's now different.
I would like to add one more thing on that. Please don't go on social media and start to say stuff you'll regret about your company, your previous company. The internet has a long memory, and that stuff doesn't get erased. It's better to complain publicly in person than to complain publicly online. Just make that distinction for yourself, because the problem, what you don't want to get into is a very negative pattern of burning bridges that you didn't intentionally mean to do. Because nobody intentionally lays you off. I do want to stress that as well. At least I hope nobody intentionally lays you off. It is a business decision. That's a tough one, but that's something I would also suggest.
Yeah, be gracious about it. And I like what you said there, Danielle. Be gracious about it, because believe it or not, I have seen situations when the manager who's had to lay off either a whole group or percentage of a team, they've actually have followed up and say, you know what? Unfortunately, I had to lay you off, but I know you're a good individual. My friend at this organization is looking for somebody, and they will make that connection for you. I have seen that happen. So to your point, don't burn bridges, because you don't know who knows who. Because when you do go for that, start looking for new work again, and people ask, well, what happened here? It's fair to say, well, you know what? There was a mass layoff and I was impacted by it, because chances are it made the news and people are aware of it. So it's nothing to be ashamed of, because if you're looking to find work in the same industry, people know what's going on from company to company. And they'll know it's not your fault. They'll know it's not because of you as a performer. Mm-hmm. It's just one of these things that happen. And quite honestly, it's just a fact of life these days. Unfortunately, you too have I managed to duck and miss that, and I got hit twice by it. But both times, though, I'll have to say, especially the first time, I landed much better. Found my follow-up position after my first layoff. And again, it was someone who reached out of the woodwork and said, "Hey, are you still not working? I've got this opportunity I'd like to talk to you about." And they called me, which was amazing. And I had a good 10-year career with that organization afterwards. So you just never know.
Yeah. I would add too that, in line with going on social media and bashing the organization, there's a website lots of us like to go to bash a company and feel like, yeah, I got you back, Glassdoor. And if you're in the heat of it in your processing, they always say, don't make rash decisions when you're emotionally charged. Add that one in the bucket of that. If you're in the midst of processing and you're feeling wronged and you're like, I'm going to go to Glassdoor and write a review. Ooh. Sure, it's anonymous, but what is that review for? Who is it really for? Is it to make yourself feel better? Is it to process emotions? And if it is, ask yourself what other avenue you have. Because that, again, it sits there on the internet unless you choose to delete it.
Yeah.
But what value is it really bringing to you?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe just putting pen to paper, actually physically writing something out, and getting that frustration out that way. Because, we're all angry when it happens. I was angry whenever it happened to me. So either, have a mechanism to put the words down someplace, either create a document on your laptop and just type away, but it doesn't need to go anywhere. Just having that activity of saying what you need to say, or even just saying, go for a walk in the woods and say it out loud. Just release that. Find a mechanism where you can release those feelings. To your point, Misha, it doesn't have to go anywhere. It's just the act of stating it is what really helps, right? And again, I always go back to saying it out loud makes it real. So at least if I said something out loud, I kind of get those feelings out, and maybe then they just drift away, and I can move on.
The other side of that is don't engage in self-blame. What could I have done differently? What did I do wrong? Why me? What's next? Why did they pick me? I was always so great. How did they? It's like when you go through a bad breakup, it's a spiral. That self-blame and you wish you could bring the person back. At the end of the day, it really comes down to, and I'm going to keep honing in back to where I started. You were on a spreadsheet. The numbers didn't make sense.
Yeah.
With whatever the business decision was. And, when they tallied it all, it made sense at that point in time. And I think the wonderful thing that we need to remember is businesses go through cycles. There will be ups, there will be downs. Try to focus your energy on harnessing the next up. What is really sparking your curiosity and your interest? And almost look at it like a newborn child learning how to walk. Well, where can you learn how to walk? Find all those lovely metaphors to open up to what's possible and not self-blame, I think is the other thing I always sort of harness on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you may have to do a little bit because that is part of the whole grieving process, a little bit of self-blame, but don't stay there.
Yeah, recognize that you're about to go into a spiral of thinking and pull yourself out.
Or time box it. Time box that spiral, whatever that looks like for you. And I mean, time box, say for the next 2 weeks, I am going to be woe is me. And then tell your family I'm done. Tell your partner you're done. Because I'm going to tell you right now, those folks at home that live with you are not going to be happy with you moping and groping. And I mean, if you have to watch reality bites, from the 90s, go through all those songs of woe is me, that relationship is over, then lean into that as well. Again, here's Gen X coming up. But even your own family will need you to rise up, right? And get back to what's next for all of those great reasons. And also don't spend money aimlessly. Try to think about what does fiscal responsibility look like for you when it happens.
You bring up a good point, though, about family and your home life. I think about anybody that goes through this when they have children, and your kids aren't going to understand that mom or dad just got laid off. They don't know what that means. They don't know why you might be quiet and sad and not wanting to engage with them. And for the parent, they have to.
Yeah.
Who else is engaging with their kids? And so from that perspective, I think if you are impacted, it's vocalizing to your partner where you need support. Where might you need them to step up on the home front so that you can have your moment to process and feel it and go through those things?
You actually brought up a good reminder for me, Misha, because when I was laid off the first time, my daughters were, how old were they? They're probably like 8 and 10. And so I was actually able to volunteer at the school. And my girls thought that was absolutely amazing that mom showed up at school 1 day a week. Because, I would then take them out to McDonald's for lunch or something. They were so excited about that. Next thing you know, their friends started showing up too. But they were quite thrilled to see that, it was a bit of a blessing because I got to spend more time with the girls. And yeah, again, it gave me back some of that self-worth that what I was missing because I was like, again, the woe is me, why me type of thing. Well, hey, I'm actually actively engaging and actively contributing in another manner. And again, and it's another way too, to increase your network as well, right? Grow that network of yours because now I've got a group of people I would never have thought to engage with. Because when you're working full time, you're not spending time with the parents at the school. So it was a little bit of a blessing that way. Yeah.
I had a friend who was laid off a while back, and our kids were, going to school. Dad was always doing the drop off in the morning, and mom did the pickup in the afternoon because mom had to get to the GO train to get the early train into the city. And now she had almost 90 days of an opportunity to do drop off for the kids before summer happened. And she says, those were the best 90 days.
Yeah.
And she still talks about it to this day as I didn't realize how much my 13-year-old needed me at the time. So that layoff gave me that opportunity to really spend more time with her.
Yeah.
That to me is those little gifts you don't see in the box when it opens up. And instead you have that letter that says, you've been laid off. Here are your terms and conditions, which also reminds me, which we didn't touch on. When you do get laid off, don't sign off on that paperwork right away. Go talk to your lawyer. And make sure you get second set of eyes. I do want to advocate for that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Do get some advice before you sign the paperwork, just to make sure you're okay
Yeah.
with what's there. Because everything is written from the eyes of the employer.
What you both just shared, though, there, not the second set of eyes and going to a lawyer, but before that, and then Claudia sharing about the time she got to spend with her daughters. That's the silver lining. Yes, you had to go through something tough to get it, but it's important to recognize that even in such a hardship, there can be a positive silver lining. There can be something that is given back to you as a gift or a blessing.
So what do we do when we're left behind? And we've heard that our friends have been laid off.
There's a bit of a doom and gloom, a dark cloud that kind of hangs over the office workspace for a while because it is a loss. Because you're left behind and all of a sudden your lunchmate isn't there anymore or the desk beside you is now empty. You have no one to say good morning to when you first come in. Those little rituals make it very, very difficult and very sad for a lot of people who have to come in.
Yeah. I'll say that first month is probably the most uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ask questions. Like if I've got the relationship with my manager or even like the skip level, my manager's manager, I start asking questions to bring into focus some of the unclarity. So, if it's not said or broadcasted when it's announced, I'll say, like, from a business perspective, can you help me understand the decision? What factors contributed to insert company name proceeding with this layoff? And I do it in a respectful way. I'm not just digging to find information that then I can go gossip about.
Right.
Because I do not spill the tea at work. Thank you. You can go back to, what was that, episode 2 or 3?
Yeah.
It's more for my own understanding so that I can then form my judgment of my security as someone who is still here. Do I continue business as usual and give them my trust? Or am I thinking, hey, there's another round coming and I should probably keep my options open? And so I think that's how I try to sift through the uncertainty. In terms of the guilt, I don't know. It's hard to explain the guilt you feel when you stay. Because let's be real, sometimes the guilt is actually just relief. Absolutely. Thank God.
Yeah.
It wasn't me.
How was it me?
I escaped.
It was me. And I'm still good.
Yeah. And there's a weight that's lifted off you. You feel lighter. You don't feel guilty, you feel relieved. And then maybe later on, you're like, ugh, I should have felt a little guilty.
There's also the, oh, thank goodness that person's finally gone.
There's also that. I don't know if we want to get into it.
I'm just going to put it out there, right? Like there are situations where you're kind of like, wow, that was not so bad.
Yeah.
It's a human reaction.
Yeah. There's also, I think, when I'll talk about when guilt does come in. So when a layoff happens and it is not effective immediately, people are given a timeline that they are still at the organization.
Still part of the team.
Yep. Still part of the team, still doing their role. And they have an option to apply to other jobs within the organization. And they're still there. That is when the guilt kicks in. That is when the guilt kicks in because I'm sitting there as an empathetic individual thinking, this is a terrible, terrible experience. Why would this company make you go through this? If they want to keep you, why not connect the dots and offer you another opportunity instead of making you go through the hoops of applying? That is when I feel guilty.
But I turn that guilt into support, and I try to offer practical help in that situation.
Oh, for sure.
How can I help you? Would you like me to review your resume? How about we do some mock interviews?
Yep.
I'm here to listen when you're ready. Hey, I have a friend who does this, this, and this. Let me connect you. What else can I do in my network? If there's someone you know that you're interested in meeting, I can do a virtual intro or we'll go for coffee. There's an opportunity to also support. Like that's my work. That's my way of addressing that. I mean, and again, it's a personal journey. So you have to find what you're comfortable with.
I actually forgot about that scenario. I was thinking about you're being told you're laid off and then you leave immediately. I forgot about the scenario where you're saying, oh, we're going through this huge restructuring. And as of X month, you're no longer here. So now you have to stick around for 6 weeks or whatever the timeline is. And yeah, that's even worse in my opinion, because not only are you now deflated, your coworkers have to work with you. What do they say to you? They look at you like this poor victim. And nobody wants to feel like a victim. So while you can have all sorts of assistance, again, the mood in the room is not pleasant. Especially when some people say, well, if they don't want me, why am I still here? They show up, or they may even stop showing up and just stop working altogether. So it is another tense situation, which I had totally forgotten about. So you block these things. Probably the best thing I can do.
Yeah. But it's also highlighting how unique each organization will handle layoffs.
That's true.
Right? Like we've talked about a number of different examples. So there is no one recipe. Right? It is a variety, and it also depends on the corporate culture and what the organization deems to be important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a difficult topic.
It is.
It is. Also, as somebody who's there and then having to deal with like the change in workplace dynamics and the shift, and especially if, it's a new leader who's come in and then made that choice, and then how do you trust that leader? And it's a lot to process. It's a big change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very different than just a reorganization, because reorganizations happen often where you have shifts of VPs and all that stuff. This is where you actually have entire groups of people gone. It becomes such a personal experience in how both sides of that experience process. But coaching can help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So divas, we have talked about being the manager who has to make the decision to go, being the person who has gone, and then being the people left behind. What are your takeaways from our discussion?
I'm going to say for the person that's getting laid off, look for the gift in the situation. You won't see it immediately. You might not see it in the first 6 months, even a year. But at some point you may look back on it and go, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I've heard it personally from people. We shared a couple of examples, and I think if you can look for that, I think you'll hopefully have a different driver or a different North Star in how you're going about it. And for the people that are left behind, I would say continue being a good friend to the person that was laid off, if you can. Grab coffee or lunch with them, even if they're not in the office anymore. Include them in the personal group chats if you have WhatsApp or whatever, a team thing that you're doing, and check in on them from time to time. Don't forget them.
Yeah, nice.
I think my takeaway is whether you're the manager making the choice, the person impacted, or the person who gets to stay, in all aspects, be a human being. Be kind, be understanding towards everybody that's involved. As a manager, if you're forced to make the decision, yeah, it's part of your job, but also you're a human being. You're allowed to feel bad. You're allowed to feel guilty. And if you have the opportunity to speak to impacted individuals as friends at a later time and they reach out to you, great. But if not, manage your own guilt and still be kind to yourself. If you're the person impacted, be kind to the person delivering the message to you, because you don't know how they had to get to that decision.
Yeah.
But more importantly, as you go through the weeks, the months of processing, be kind to yourself. Don't go through that spiral of thinking, why me? And what could I have done differently? And as the person who stays, be kind to those around you. Because in the situation where the folks are still there, sometimes they don't announce it. They don't tell people. And so be careful how you speak about things in different meetings and the banter you might have with colleagues, because you never know what people are going through. So just across the board, it's allow yourself to process, but also remember we're not employee numbers. We are human beings. So be kind.
Yeah. Well, I can't really add much more than that, but I've always just reminded myself there is always life after insert company name here. You just kind of learn to pack that away, feel those feels, but then have that growth mindset and keep going and look for that silver lining.
Thanks for listening to The Coaching Divas. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave us a review and follow us on Instagram at The Coaching Divas.
Your ratings and reviews help more people like you find our podcast.
Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with someone you think would love it.
Until next time, we are
Claudia Jones,
Daniela Velkovic,
and Misha Jethba, The Coaching Divas.
If you're going to coach, might as well coach like a diva.